You're listening to Psych with Mike. For more episodes or to connect with the show with comments, ideas, or to be a guest, go to www.psychwithmike.com. Follow the show on Twitter @PsychWithMike or like the Facebook page @PsychWithMike. Now, here's Psych with Mike.
Good morning and welcome into the Psych with Mike library. I'm assuming it's morning where you are.
It is indeed. Well, I'm where you are.
I'm here with Mr. Brett Newcomb. Well, but the listener might be somewhere else. They might be listening to this in the middle of the night.
That's true.
Yeah, so.
They must lead very challenged lives if they're listening to us in the middle of the night.
They might be eating cookie dough listening to Psych with Mike.
There you go.
That would be awesome.
I hope so, for their sake.
So we are going to, just for people who don't know, and there would be no reason for anybody to know this, you are how old?
I am 72.
You are 72, and
Yeah.
I am 55.
Okay.
And so a lot of people would probably think, what is that, an 18-year difference?
You do the math.
Well, you do the math, because you're better at that than I am. But it's 10, 5, 7, so almost 18 years.
I'm 72, but I'm still immature.
Well, what I was going to say is that it has never, ever, ever occurred to me in all of the time that we've known each other that we are different ages.
We're both childlike in our enthusiasms.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that says. I don't know if that says that I'm at heart an old man, or if you at heart are a young man. I don't know. But I've never ever considered the fact that we are of almost different generations.
My goal has always been to maintain a base of friends across the spectrum. Mm-hmm. I want people from different walks of life, different religions, different cultures to be connected to me. Mm-hmm. And I pride myself on having a group of friends at different socioeconomic levels.
Right.
To me, it just matters.
And you've been retired now how long?
Oh gosh, a while. I'm semi-retired.
Right. I mean, it was like 66, 67, something like that.
Oh, I was 66 or 67.
Yeah, no, it wasn't 1966.
Yeah. I was like, wait, I was working after 1966.
Yeah. And so it's been some years that you've been retired. And so we do a yearly ski trip for people who don't know. And, when I tell people, oh, the guys I go skiing with are retired.
Yeah, they're old.
And they're like, how old are you?
Yeah.
And I've never, ever considered that.
You're not really in our group.
Yeah.
Well, we need somebody to carry the bags.
I do carry the bags. That is true. Yeah. Often, especially up the stairs.
Yeah.
But, you had brought this idea to me today I actually had something else planned, and you said, hey, I'm going to send you this link. And so we decided that we were going to talk about that. And I don't know if that's because you feel like that this is salient in your life, or if it's just, so talk to me about why this was something that really attracted you.
I like to say I'm old. Yes. Because it's an accomplishment to get here.
I say that about myself.
Yeah.
So.
And I have a lot of old friends. And we have conversations about, and one of the things we learned in school was when you're working with the elderly, one of the things that you want to do is end-of-life conversations.
Yeah.
You get to the end of your life, do you want to have unfinished things, or are you going to be disappointed about contacts you didn't make, or people you didn't speak to, or whatever. And it has value in terms of quality of life. Mm-hmm. So we have these conversations, and somebody sent me a link on Facebook yesterday that I looked at it, and it's actually a list that was produced on a Vietnamese website that I can't read.
Well, we're assuming it was Vietnamese.
Well, I know it was Vietnamese.
Oh, you know that, okay.
But I don't know who wrote it because they just posted it on this website. But they sent me this link, and it was an article on the website that was written in English. Mm-hmm. And the title of the article is not an author listed, but the title of the article was Between 65 and Death.
Yeah.
And so I thought, wow, that's an interesting way to approach writing something. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at that. I'm saying, well, I'm 72. So if I look at this list, I'm looking at between 72 and death.
Right.
And statistically, I got between 5 and 10 years.
Yeah.
If I'm statistically average or representative for somebody my age.
Although I will say that you are
not
in
statistically
incredibly great health. I mean, and
yeah. But and hopefully I'll continue to be. But again, you have to look at the data, and the data says, hey, this is your life expectancy.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. But I was looking at it, and it says as you reach these points where you can see the end coming, even if it's still in a foggy mist, you're more aware at 72 that you're going to die than you ever were at 21.
Right.
I mean, we have this intellectual knowledge. Yeah, we all die.
Right.
But it's not real.
Right.
Until people your own age start dying.
Yeah.
And then you start going, oh my gosh. I mean, that's one of the things that I retired because I had a couple of people that were very important to me die at the same age that I was. And I was still working 50 hours a week. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to do this and run up to the end and just fall off a cliff.
Yeah, I remember.
Because that happened to my friends.
Yeah.
One was literally going to retire from her career on Friday. She died on Thursday.
Yeah. I remember that.
So anyway, somebody sent me this list, and I thought it had intriguing.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So because obviously we've established that I'm 55, and so then don't even fall within the parameters of the title of the story. You do. Do you actually have a visceral sense of I need to start thinking about these things?
No.
Okay.
Because
I didn't think so, but I was. That's why I was wondering.
I'm just busy living, and I'm having a good time.
That's what I thought because, and I know you, and that's my impression. But maybe you are in the back of your mind having this existential conversation with yourself. And I just was interested.
No, my wife and I have a conversation with people somewhat regularly that are approaching retirement. They say, "Well, what do you do when you're retired?"
Yeah.
And we laugh because we both think, how did we ever get everything done that we did when we were still working?
Right.
Because we're busy.
You guys are
we
very
have
busy.
commitments and activities, and we do things all the time that we used to have to squeeze in to our lives around our jobs or raising our children.
Right.
And now we don't have those issues because we're both retired. But we find that we're still very busy.
You guys are super busy for, just as a personal kind of very selfish note, trying to figure out our recording schedule around your schedule.
Yeah, when am I going to be in town?
Is difficult. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Which is fantastic.
Challenge for you, yeah. It's not for me.
Yeah.
So this list, this is a list of 19 items, or 21 items, that these people suggest that you consider in your thinking as you approach the end of your life.
Right.
And I thought and we'll post all 21 of them.
Yeah.
But there are some specific ones that I would like to just highlight because I think maybe at any age, some of them have relevance.
And that was the argument that I was going to make, that this is Between 65 and Death is the name of the article.
Right.
But I would argue if you took this list and
at any
actually,
age.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about the first one. I don't agree. The first one, I think if at any age, at 40, at 30, at 60, not so much so. But between 70, 80, when you're looking at a 5 or 10 year window for your life expectancy, then I would agree. And I do agree. And number one is it's time to use the money that you've saved up. Use it and enjoy it. Don't just keep it for those who may have no notion of the sacrifices that you made to get it. Remember, there's nothing more dangerous than a son or daughter-in-law with big ideas for your hard-earned capital. And I have had clients who were waiting on somebody to die so they would inherit a big chunk of money.
Right.
And they weren't getting on with their own lives.
Yeah.
They weren't happy. They were miserable people, and they were dysfunctional people because they weren't creating life for themselves.
Yeah.
They were treading water, waiting on somebody to die so they could spend all that money. So the argument is, as you age, be aware that money you earned, that you worked for, is for your use and enjoyment.
Right.
And you should use it for that.
Yeah.
And not try to leave a big pile of money for somebody else, for your church, for your grandchild. They have their own lives to live,
so
their own journey.
Then let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If a person were then saying to themselves, but my integrity or my identity is that I do not, well, even if you're going to leave it to a child, but I want to leave this big chunk to my church. I feel like that is that's something that means something to me. Do you believe that there's validity in that, or would you encourage that person to reevaluate?
So I think that's the wrong question.
Okay.
I think the question is, are they living their lives now, or are they depriving themselves of something? Like, I'd like to go to New Zealand, but I can't spend that $10,000 because I may have a health bill, or I may have a house payment, or I may have whatever, or my child still needs an engagement ring that I want to buy for them, so they can marry this girl they're in love with. I think the question is, how relevant is it in your life? Are you living your life and enjoying your life and doing things and staying active?
But Warren Buffett doesn't have to buy a gold toilet just because he's got to spend all the money.
No.
Yeah.
No, and actually, as I understand it, Warren Buffett has joined a club with Bill Gates to try to give all their money away before they die. But they've also made sure that their children are secure with a little pie.
That's what I was going to say.
So set aside.
But no, that actually is so elucidating that that's the right question. What are you living in any kind of deprivation? If the answer is no, and it's really important to you to leave this chunk to the church, then absolutely do that.
Yeah.
But if you're living in deprivation, then maybe you should reevaluate.
I talked to a couple of elderly people that will whine about, I can't afford cable TV, or can't afford to pay for the newspaper, so I don't know what's going on anymore. And they have money in the bank.
Right.
It's not a true statement of reality, economic reality. It's something that they carry as a burden that they fret over because they can't spend money on something that they want to do. But they have money in the bank.
Right.
Well, what are you saving it for? Well, I need to save it for my children so that when I'm gone, I can leave it to them. And so I will do without over these next several years to make sure that my grandchild or my niece or nephew gets this little pile of money. They're going to run out and spend on a new stereo system the day I die.
Right.
You know?
And I don't want to belabor this point, but I did want to ask you one other question. I know that both you and I, neither one inherited any money from our parents.
My father used to say his goal was to die with a zero bank account, or even owing money.
Yeah.
And that sucker managed to do that.
Because you get out. Cause I look at what I got away with.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
And so I was all expectant that I'll get some little something from my dad. I didn't get anything. I mean, when he died, he died. Right. It was all gone.
So we both are of the mind.
What I tell myself is, I didn't miss any meals. I didn't miss a house payment.
Exactly. No, and I feel really good. Nobody gave me a dime for my education. I have a doctorate, and I didn't inherit any money from my family, and I lived better than any of them could have ever even imagined. So I don't have any compulsion to leave money to my children, because I look at them and I say, they're doing great. They don't need it. Right. But am I coming from that because of my experience, and that isn't universal, that there are other people for whom that would be really important? Again, is it my own countertransference that leads me to feel that way, or?
Well, that leads us to the second item on the list. The second item on the list is stop worrying about the financial situation of your children and grandchildren. Yeah. That you've helped facilitate their educations, you've helped facilitate their first steps in life, and now the responsibility for living their life is on them. And for you to save a big pile of money isn't going to protect them from the dangers of life, and isn't going to make life perfect and easy for them. And they may or may not appreciate and respect the contribution, but whether they do or not, they still have to live their lives.
Well, and you said, I don't know if you said this on mic or off mic, but you had said earlier that, you see so many people who are waiting to get the inheritance.
I did say that, and it was on mic. I had a number of clients from wealthy families.
And so psychologically,
die before they started their life.
Right. So psychologically, that's actually bad for them.
Yeah. So then, item number 3, keep a healthy life without great physical effort. And the argument there is that you need to do things to make your quality of life as good as it can be. That a healthy diet, a moderate weight, a healthy amount of exercise, whatever you can physically do. You don't want to do something that will strain you. I mean, it's easier to break at my age.
I was just going to say,
it used to be. I don't bounce the way a little baby bounces if I fall.
So don't go to the gym and do heavy squats and break your hip just because.
But also do enough. I mean, one of my goals in the remaining years of my life is to get to the end of the life and not need a walker or a wheelchair.
Right.
And part of that requires me to maintain enough muscle mass.
Right.
So I need to exercise enough to keep the muscles that I have, rather than let them deteriorate and atrophy.
Now, I obviously have known you for a long, long time, and I know that today you're in better shape today than probably when I met you 20 years ago.
Yeah, I weigh 190 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm 6 foot tall.
And
I used to weigh 250, 240.
Yeah. And so is that something that was that a conscious decision that you made at one
Yes.
point, or did it just kind of evolve?
Well, two things happened. One, I started working with Dr. Kathy Maupin,
Yeah.
who does hormone replacement therapies, and she taught me that you need to replace your testosterone in order to be able to have muscles, and that you need to eat a healthy diet and have a moderate amount of exercise on a regular basis in order to be healthy as you age. And the goal is what I just said. My goal is to live out the remainder of my life still being able to be independent, to live on my own, and to physically do the things that I want to do. I mean, I get mad at myself. I was climbing a mountain in France a couple of years ago, and I really had to struggle to get to the top of it when I used to not have to struggle. I mean, just go up. And it was effort, and it was work. And I was ticked off because it was so much work. But I still got to the top of the mountain.
But my experience of you is we go skiing every year.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's coming
we've
down
talked
now.
about it is.
I ride to the top.
But we ski harder today than we did 20 years ago. And so some of that is we're probably better skiers. I mean, that's
but it's also
that's true.
we're better condition.
But I was just going to say, but I think you ski better today than you did then because you're in better shape.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
We'll find out this winter.
We'll find out. Well,
What I'm happy about is I finally got to the age where I can get the old man discount and get lots cheaper tickets. So item number 5, don't stress over the little things. Do you remember a book that we used to give to our clients or ask them to get called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly
it was
the point.
ubiquitous. Yeah.
And so many people stress over things that have no real importance in their lives. And they give that energy, and that energy is then not available to use somewhere else in their life.
Right.
So if you fret over all kinds of little bitty things like, I didn't get invited to the Christmas party of the neighborhood. You know, what's wrong? Who doesn't like me? Why am I banned? How upset am I? If I give that energy, then that's taking that energy away from me that's not replaceable.
So how does a person gauge whether it's small stuff or not? That's what I see in my clients is that I will say, don't sweat the small stuff. And they'll say, well, how do I know?
Right. I think that involves a discussion. I don't think there's a quick and simple answer because everybody has a story. Everybody has a background. Everybody has needs that are being frustrated. So the question is finding, well, what is your need?
Well, so when I hear you say, don't sweat the small stuff, and then somebody says, oh, I didn't get invited to the Christmas party, what that says to me is that person doesn't have somebody in their life to talk about, oh, I didn't get invited to the Christmas party. I think that's what they're missing is connection with people, because all of us might feel slighted by not getting invited to the Christmas party.
Feeling slighted,
but we would talk about it with our friends, and then we'd get to the end of that conversation and say, well, I'm not going to worry about that.
Right.
If you don't have that person in your life, then that festers.
And my response is, well, hell, I'll just go to the Bahamas over Christmas. Where the sun's shining and the beach is available. And
I love being in the Caribbean.
These people
on
be
Christmas.
shoveling ice to get to each other's house.
Yeah.
So I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Item number 6, regardless of age, keep love alive. And I think that is so significant if you can do that. And if you've lost your partner, if you are alone,
I think that
there are still people out there or things out there that you can commit yourself to, that you can love and care about, that matter and can reach back to you and touch you or validate you.
But even at my age, so I'm 55, my daughter is getting married in 20 days. And so she'll be our last child leaving the house. And my wife and I couldn't have more children. We had 2, and then we had to stop because my wife has eclampsia. But we would have had more children, probably, if that wouldn't have been the case. And so that would mean that, we might have another child after this, and we might be 60 or 65. So even though this is happening for me now, it could actually happen for people at an older age, but that empty nesting syndrome is a real thing. My wife and I are going through it now. Who are we going to be without being parents? Because we've been parents almost since the day that we got married.
Yeah.
We've never been a couple without being a parent. And I think that those reevaluations of identity, but that can also happen when you stop working and you retire. And,
Absolutely.
And we had conversations about that before you retired. What's a person's identity after they retire?
Yeah.
Because so many people invest their identity in what they do.
In a role, or
Yeah.
an identified role, instead of just in themselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in their relationship to others, which is what we're talking about. Keep love alive.
Right.
Item number 9, stay up to date. It's really important that you know what's going on in the world around you. You need to read a newspaper. You need to listen to the news. You need to have information about what's going on at church, if you belong to a church, or your club, if you belong to a club. Mm-hmm. Don't just become sedentary, sit on the couch, watch TV, and wait to die. Mm-hmm. You know, if you don't challenge your mind, so mind is a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. Mm-hmm. So your ability to do critical thinking, your ability to read, your ability to think atrophies if you don't stretch it, if you don't challenge it.
Absolutely. And so, you know, we had this great, for, you know, just the sake of a conversation, we had the great physics education this week because the impeachment trial's going on. They had the constitutional scholars that went up into Capitol Hill and testified. And I had my, clients coming in and they were telling me, hey, that was just so boring and I just hated it. And I was saying to people, look, it doesn't matter to me what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care if you support the impeachment. I don't care if you're abjectly against it. That doesn't matter. But forcing yourself to engage in those kinds of things that maybe you think are boring, but are important aspects of being a plugged-in person into our society, challenge yourself to do things that you might think you're not going to enjoy, but force yourself to engage in, at least trying it.
So this is a conversation that I used to have with men in the Middle Ages, 40, 50, 60, who suddenly became alone, either by being widowed or divorced, in an unexpected divorce. And not one they planned for and decided to instigate, but it just happened. And my argument to them was, you need to force yourself out of your little security bubble. You need to go out and meet people. You need to be active. You need to do things in order to stay alive, in order to become attractive to others with some energy that others want to tap into. And they really resist hearing that. But I find that a lot of older people also resist hearing it. So my race is run. I'm done. I don't want to put out that effort anymore. It's too hard for me to get up and move and go.
Right.
And the challenge is to do exactly that.
That's right. And obviously we're not encouraging anybody to go out and do something that could be physically dangerous to them. But energy begets energy. The energy you invest in physical activity actually gives you more energy back in return than you expend. And that's true of anybody.
George Bush the Elder jumped out of a plane with a parachute when he was 95 years old.
Well, it's because he did it when he was younger.
Well, but yeah, that's the point we're talking about.
He wanted to do it one more time before.
And he did.
Yeah, and he did. And he had a great time. He said that was really important for him.
Yeah.
So let's each pick one before the end of our time. So what's your last big one? Or do you want me to go first?
You can go.
Okay.
I'm looking.
So for me, the one that I would really, really like for people to invest in is number 14, which is don't abandon your hobbies.
Yeah.
Because I see people who, they get older, they retire, and maybe you don't have a hobby, but I really believe that hobbies are so important because they engage the left hemisphere of the brain, and we're so, or the right hemisphere of the brain, I'm sorry, and we're so less left hemisphere dominant in our society.
So if you don't have one, you should get one.
You should definitely try and explore it. Any kind of thing that's creative, and even playing golf can be creative when you think about, okay, how am I going to approach this shot?
I was going to say, if you see some of the shots I make, it's pretty damn creative.
It's pretty creative. But, so picking up a guitar when you're 65. I mean, doing something, absolutely. Yeah. Whatever it is, I know that I really love
learning a language,
building models. And at 55 even, I don't see as well as I used to. And I have a magnifying headset and stuff like that. And when I get older, it's going to be even more challenging. But, no matter what, I don't want to give that up because that is something that I do that is really important to me and gives me a creative satisfaction, and I really believe that that's important for people to remain connected to.
So you said do one. I can't. There are two. I have to mention both
All right.
of them.
Go ahead.
One is if you've been offended by someone, forgive them. Don't carry that negative aura, that negative energy around. Let it go. And when they write the explanation of why they're saying that, they use an aphorism that I think is rather clever. They say not forgiving somebody and holding all that poison and negativity inside is like taking poison and then expecting the other person to die. And their suggestion is let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go and live your life. Focus on doing what you want to do and having validity, enjoying your life.
I actually starred that one, so I'm so glad you brought that up.
And then the last one is number 20. For me, the last one, laugh a lot. The more you laugh, the more energy you have, the more joy you have, the more you make other people laugh. Laughter is such a healing thing. And if we can have it in our lives are better for that. So please laugh a lot.
And I say this all the time, we could revisit that because the endocrine response that's associated with laughter is really, really interesting.
So, yes, and the last thing on the article that I want to bring mention to, it says, remember, life is too short to drink bad wine. And our friend John Maupin has told us that over and over.
Over and over again.
We will attribute that to him, even though he stole it.
The quote is attributed, in this case, to Arnold Palmer, but we attribute it to John Maupin. So, John, if you're listening, that reminds us of you. And probably everybody has somebody in their lives that have said that to them at one point.
Yeah.
So hopefully this was helpful for people, and this may even be a topic that is worth revisiting at some point because the population, as a rule,
we're all in that bubble.
Is getting older, right? And so it is important for us as a society to consider quality of life. If the largest portion of the population is going to be 65 plus, that's going to be a really, really important thing for us to be thinking about. So it is something that is great for people to consider. And like we said, you don't even have to wait until you're 65. These are things that people can think about all across the lifespan.
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you want to get a hold of us, go to psychwithmike.com. The music that is in Psych with Mike is presented by Mr. Benjamin DeClue. And as always, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike.